She's got a story written deep within her soul. Pages full of battles only heaven knows. Through the pain, through the pressure, through the tears she had to cry, she found strength in the valley and lifted her eyes. South Carolina roots, but her voice travels wide, calling dreamers forward, telling fear to step aside. With every word she speaks, somebody learns to stand, cause she knows what it means to be held in God's hand. R&B.
Good evening and welcome to Believe in the Journey, where I am your host, Triveda Harris. And the guest that I have tonight is my brother. You guys have seen him many times before, but tonight we're going to be talking about men's mental health. Since this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I wanted to have him come on and talk to you guys because I think that it is a very important topic because we don't always talk about men's mental health. But before I bring him up, I am going to go to God in prayer because I can't do anything without going to Him first. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for having me today and my brother as we talk to the gentleman today because we know that they don't always get the support that they need, but you are always willing to be the listening ear. But let the words of our mouths fall upon the ears that need to hear, and let us be a guidance, a stepping stone to them that need to get to you, and be a a listening ear, a helping hand to anybody that is in need, not just men, but women as well. Let them take something from tonight's show that they can lead and follow you. In your precious and holy name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. Well, come on up. I felt like this was important for us to talk about because I don't think men get the space to talk about mental health as often as they should. What do you think some of the stigmas are that are surrounding men and mental health?
First, let me say thank you for having me on tonight, and to answer that question. I think a lot of men
Yeah.
have issues where they're afraid to be vulnerable. There's just not a lot of spaces that are available in order for a man to be vulnerable. There's so many pressures and things of the world that society has placed on that a man is always supposed to be strong. He's supposed to be the head, but sometimes that load gets heavy, and men don't
Yeah.
have a lot of space to to where they can be vulnerable. It's always they feel they have to carry this macho mentality that I don't want to feel soft. I don't want to feel weak, or that's as they say, that's gay, or no homo type, with all the stigma. But as I've had to learn in growing in this field and just throughout life, that some of the things that we grew up with, some of those generational curses, that we had to break. I shared with the gentleman with the fraternity, we had a mental health men's awareness thing back in December of last year, and I shared with them. It was a time to Malachi was trying to ride his bike, and he fell. And
Mhm.
first thing that came to my mind was things from my childhood. Get up, man! I ain't raising no punk. And then I had to
Right.
pause, and it was like, no, he's hurt. I can show him that it's okay to acknowledge that you hurt. You fell off your bike. This is not something you've done before. You're learning how to ride. So I had to step back and take a different approach, to let him know that it's okay to feel those emotions. A lot of times growing up, it was showing love gets you killed, showing love makes you weak, and Harvard hid those feelings away until it was later on into my middle school and high school years where I had different professors and teachers tell me that it was okay for you to express these feelings. Now I'm gonna give you this notebook and you need to write. What you got me writing? I ain't never nobody told me to write, so it was different. But now, just even with a recent conversation that we had to kick off this month, since June is Men's Month, it was earlier first Tuesday where the fraternity we get together and we just invited different men to just come out. And a lot of men in that space were excited, but still some of them was very reserved because it was like, if I share this with you in this space and I'm vulnerable,
Mhm.
are you gonna use this against me later? And a lot of times, even in relationships, whether it's with your significant other, co-workers, friends, family, if I'm vulnerable with you with my most intimate thoughts, next time when you get mad or if you leave this space, are you gonna use that against me?
Right.
And a lot of times, men they shout, they cower down because they don't want to have that come back up.
Yeah. And I think that's really true, especially for men in relationships, because as a woman, I can't say that I've been one to do that, but I know that there are some females that do, that take those most sensitive times when the guy has been ultimately vulnerable and let down his guard and cried over something that was just hurtful to them. And then in the heat of an argument, she said, "Well, that's why you cried, or that's why you did this, and that's why you did that." And then that causes them to shut down and not share anything else, with them. And then they're like, "Well, you don't talk to me anymore." Well, you closed the door when you threw the most vulnerable space that I ever felt vulnerable with you back in my face, so I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So I feel like, as far as me, and now one thing I can say that I had to apologize to my boys for once I realized the damage that I had caused them, because you don't realize, like as you said, when we grew up, it was boys didn't cry.
Mhm.
And when my boys would cry and they would do that, I had nicknames for them, and it was I hate to say it, but this is what their nicknames were. It was Debbie and Amber. And so I took their initials from their middle names, and when they would cry and be crying for what I felt was no reason for them to be crying, I would say, "Okay, Debbie and Amber, since you want to cry, this is how I'm going to address you until you get it together and do what you're supposed to do." And 9 times out of 10, it would be something as simple as them, needing to clean up their room and them not wanting to do it, and they
Right.
would be crying because of that. Now, if they got hurt, it would be different, but I still had to go back and apologize to them for doing that, as I realized that they needed the space and the opportunity to even be able to do that and express themselves in that manner. And
Right.
so now they laugh about it now, but still, and it's like I still had to go back and apologize because that
Mhm.
wasn't right for me to do that. And for me to admit that that was something that I did, that was, a level of maturity on my end,
Right.
because that was from my own childhood that I learned, and I had to go back and correct that mistake on my own behalf. Now, of
Right.
course, your nephews, they're like, "Okay, mom, it just is what it is."
Right.
But I, they are now in a space to where they are very vulnerable with me, and they cry with me. They share their emotions with me, and it's a good thing to see, because they would not always do that,
Right. And there's a lot of
because
men that don't feel safe in relationships, whether it's with
yeah,
family, with their significant other, with their friends, or whomever. They don't feel safe.
yeah,
But creating space to where they can latch on and utilize those emotional regulation skills. Like now we
yeah,
have so many guys and young adults who are sitting in a box because they didn't have the emotional regulation skills to process their emotions, and drastically they made a terrible decision in the midst of an heated moment that altered their perspective in the rest of their lives. So it's
yeah,
very important that men understand that it's okay to not be okay. You're not
hmm,
going you're not going to feel on cloud nine every day.
yeah,
It's just part of it's just not normal for a person to just be 100 all the time, because that means that
yeah,
you're practicing an emotional avoidance type behavior nobody is 100% all the time. There's something. And sometimes when I'm in sessions and I ask families when we're teaching parenting classes on Monday and Tuesday night, I ask a simple question: is there a such thing as a functional family? Sometimes I get the answer yes, and sometimes I get no. And I was like, okay, so tell me what happens when, if you feel that that there is a perfect thing as a functional family, then what happens when discord shows up? And then
Right.
the room goes silent, because I use these different scenarios and stuff when I'm in session and even when I'm teaching parenting classes to show that we are human. We deal with different stuff differently. And as far
Mhm.
as with men, just like we had a conversation this past Saturday with the men at the church to kick off the men's month with fellowship and stuff with the men's breakfast that we had.
Mhm.
And we the conversation shifted because it was a dark cloud. We lost a real very important member of our house at the church, who the deacon who everybody loved and adored. And so it was just a dark cloud over this thing, man. But I shared with the men on Saturday that it's okay to not be okay, but
Yeah.
it's different when you're dealing with a significant other, a family member, or a loved one who has been diagnosed with something or has been in a situation, because the first response from a man is to, I need to fix it.
Right.
That's just how we're
Right.
built.
Yeah.
But what happens in those moments when you can't
You
fix it?
can't fix it. Yeah.
And that weight is on you and all eyes are on you, and you're like, oh, well, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn. So it's being able to tap into your accountability partners and call, be like, hey man, this is heavy for me. I need your help. I can't
Yeah.
carry this alone. So what can you offer me?
Yeah. What
And
do you think the stigma is when it comes to men and mental health as a whole? Because I look at it as, especially in the Black community, when you're talking about seeing a therapist, it's mostly frowned upon. We don't. It's the old saying, "What happens in this house stays in this house,"
you know,
and it it's not a good it's not a good thing.
right, we
So
gotta kill that. We gotta kill that. And well, and sometimes we're talking to some of my fraternity brothers and some of my friends and still guys from high school. Man, I ain't crazy. I ain't going to talk to nobody. And it's always, I think society has placed a damper on counseling or therapy, however you want to frame it, as it's
Mhm.
just some negative thing. I'm
Right,
like, if you're sick, you're gonna go to the doctor. If there's something
right,
broken, you're going to the doctor. This is,
right.
and I look at, and it's most times when I'm in session with clients, or even when I'm in the mode of teaching class, I'm telling them, don't look at this as that you're coming to therapy. Don't look at this as a counseling session. Don't look at this that you're coming to class to come to class. We're just gonna have a conversation. And I think if we can frame the narrative behind it to where I'm just teaching you how to have a conversation that can tap into your emotions, that can tap into how you process and how
Yeah,
you look at things from a different lens, it will shape a different part of conversation. Because I tell my clients all the time, like, I'm only 1 hour from being on the other side of the desk. Because when I leave here, I don't know what God is going to throw at me.
right.
And I use that as a prime example, just like November of last year. I had just finished at the office and was on my way home, sitting at a light, and a car ran the light and hit
Yeah,
me head on after T-boning somebody else. Now
yeah.
I'm on the other side of the desk because it's like, dang, I'm minding my business and I done got hit.
Right,
Ain't did nothing to
right,
nobody. I'm minding my business. And now I'm caught up in
right.
somebody else's mess.
Exactly.
So,
And
and,
I remember my first time, like I was at the doctor's office and I guess I had been doing too much crying or whatever. And the doctor was like, I'm going to send you to see a therapist. And at first I was like, what do I need to go see a therapist for? And he was like, there's something else underlying that you need to talk to somebody about. And I didn't want to go. I really did not want to go, but I'm glad that I did, you know. So that saying that what happens in this house stays in this house, go talk to somebody. It will do you a world of good if there is something that is weighing heavily on you. Talking to somebody on the other side is beneficial in more ways than one. And I feel like if we see more of ourselves in these positions, that more of us will actually go and do it. Because here over the last few years, I've seen more of us taking our mental health a little bit more seriously than I have in the past few years.
Yeah, yeah. And well, I think a lot of it also goes back to how we were brought up, trying
Hmm.
to kill those generational curses over us, over our homes, and over our families now. But again, going back to looking at the initial question, a lot of it is, are they afraid of what they gonna find or learn about themselves? Because a lot of it is trauma,
Yeah,
and trauma is a big thing. There's
yeah,
multiple levels of it, and until you get to a point to where you feel comfortable with unpacking it, because you will learn a lot about yourself when you start to unpack,
yeah,
of really getting to a space to where you can be vulnerable enough within yourself
yeah,
to move beyond the scars, the trauma, and look within yourself to say, hey, I can see why I do some of the things that I do. I can see why I respond to certain things the
yeah.
way that I do. But a lot of times it's hurtful because a lot of us don't want to be in that space.
Right.
It's,
I
it's
agree
very,
with that 100% because I feel like when you are unpacking your childhood trauma and you figure out what that trigger was that, because you have people that say, especially men, I hear this from most men all the time, this is just how I am, take me as I am. And it's like, okay, but you're willing to change for a job, you're willing to change to get that job and keep that job, you're willing to change for your homeboys and to do all of those things. But when it comes to being healthy in a good relationship, those are not willing, most of the time, they're not willing to sacrifice and make those changes for a healthy relationship because it requires more of them that they're not ready to commit to just yet.
yeah.
And
And
that
having
means
that
that
back.
they have to confront themselves and they're not willing to take that hard look in the mirror at themselves. And I agree that it's that trauma that they're not willing to face because when they face it, that means they have to, one, hold themselves accountable for some of the actions that they and the decisions that they've made, because some of those decisions that they've made have been after they've gotten grown and they could have done better and made better choices, but they choose to stick with, this is just how I am, this is how I was raised, and so they stick with that instead of doing the work to change and become better. But they'll do it when it comes to getting a job, keeping the job, and maintaining the job, you know?
Right. And that's sometimes that they will. I've run into a case to where this new generation,
This new generation, that's a whole nother topic
this
for a
new
whole nother day.
generation, this 18 to 35-year old, and you'll run into a few that have it
Rare
together. It's
unicorns.
very rare, but this 18 to 35, 36-year old gap, they different. And
Yeah.
it's not so much it's different in a bad way. It's again going back to that word that you just shared, accountability. Nobody has
Mhm.
held them accountable,
Right.
their emotions, or even just with the smallest things, the responsibility of understanding what it's like to transition from teenage to adulthood
Mhm.
and the responsibilities that come with it. And they hide behind that, oh, that's just how I am, or I've always been this way. Okay, so when are you going to take accountability for your actions and grow up?
Right.
That's
Right.
a hard thing, but I've seen it to where they haven't changed for jobs because smoking weed is a little bit more important than them staying on this job. or
Yeah.
hide behind this, oh, well, I can chase this woman to lay with this woman, but now when she holds me accountable to a different standard, now is I'm gonna play this, oh well, you knew how I was when you met me type ordeal. And it goes back
Yeah.
to the mental health. Nobody's held them accountable. And when it's the
Right.
conversation or things get hard, I'm gonna pivot and hide behind something else. So
Do you think that when they started giving out the participation trophies and things of that nature, do you think that era played a part in the lack of accountability in our young men,
oh yeah.
to what we're seeing now? Because, when we were growing up, either you got the award or you didn't. It was either first, second, or third. After that, it really didn't matter. You didn't get nothing.
Oh yeah, I hated that.
You
Even
tried your best.
I hated that, and I had to walk away from some programs that I was a part of because I was like, no, you lost. Like, get better, get back in the lab.
Right,
You didn't win. We gonna take it as a learning experience. We're gonna get back in the lab and we're gonna do better the next time. But just
right,
because you showed up, no, I'm not giving you a trophy
right.
because you showed up. No, you're supposed to
But
show
you're
up.
supposed to, right? Like
That's
that's
like
what you're
and
supposed
even in teaching parenting classes, we there's a program, a part of the lesson, the 14-week program, where it talks about rewards and responsibilities and all of this. And I tell parents,
to.
don't get comfortable with always feeling that you got to give a monetary reward or some material gift because your kid is doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to clean up their room. They're supposed to make their bed.
Right,
They're supposed to do their chores. You giving them
right,
a reward is not something that's always going to be given. Because when you're on
right,
your job, your boss don't come in every time you close a deal or do something, wait, great job and give you a reward. No, you setting them up for
right.
failure. Yeah, I hate that aspect. I hate that. That irks me. That irks me.
Like that tears my nerves up. When I realized that, I was just like, okay, so all we had to do was show up. No, we actually had to be good at what we did.
Right.
We had to actually put in the work to actually say that we are actually legitimately good at what we do. That's
Oh
a
yeah.
whole nother that I mean,
Oh
we
yeah.
could go on and on about that.
Yeah.
But how do you feel our faith plays a major role in strengthening our mental health? Like when we're going through a difficult time and a difficult season, if we lean on faith, do you think that it could get us through our difficult times? Because I do.
Oh yeah. Like your faith walk and your relationship with Christ is gonna always give you a sense of encouragement to knowing that things are always going to get better.
Hmm.
Even looking at the story of Job, and that's one of the greatest stories that I love to reference
Yeah.
from the Bible. Job lost everything. Like it got to the point that Job's friends couldn't understand how he always showed up every day, despite
Hmm.
the conversation that the God and the devil had, where God was saying like, "No, you can do this, but you can't do this." That's where that whole part of the Bible comes from, where there's only two things that God does: He allows or He ordains. That's where that whole process comes from that book of Job, where He said, "No, I allow you to do this, but you can't do this."
Hmm.
So even in the
Yeah.
midst of trials and storms, when those things come, Job is a great reference point to know that even in the midst of you taking or breaking or destroying all of these things, I'm still gonna
Yeah.
put my faith in you because I know that it's gonna get better. And
Right.
and like losing mom was one of the most difficult emotional roller coaster type storms that I've ever had to endure. And for those who've lost a parent, that's a club that nobody is really eager to sign up to be a part of.
Right.
But along that journey, I've learned how to hold it together while falling apart. And I
Mhm.
just recently wrote something in one of my morning prayers that simulates that. When
Yeah.
life is throwing you all these different lemonades and curveballs and
Yeah.
everything that you can think of, I'm still showing up because I know that God is going to turn something eventually in my favor. It may be dark right now, but I know eventually He's going to work it out. And but a lot of times, even going back to the original question, even just looking at that aspect of it, a lot of men don't have a relationship with God. They're turning to, well, I'm gonna go smoke this weed, or I'm gonna go get this drink, or I'm gonna go chase this tail. But once
Hmm.
that's done, you never address the problem.
Right.
So those
Right.
emotions that you had initially, you went and got a temporary solution, but it comes right back because
Right.
you never addressed it. So until you address the emotions that triggered that response, you're only putting a band-aid on certain things.
Yes.
And so, and a lot of times, men they seek other forms of gratification
Hmm.
because they don't know. Again, they don't know those emotional regulation skills. And most times, like now, even if you in a room of say 30 adults and you ask them, "What are your emotions? How do you feel?" What do you mean, how I feel? Yeah, how do you feel? Like, what's your emotions? And they will give you the basic, I'm happy, I'm sad, oh, I'm confused. But they'll give you basic response when it's different emotions. Like
Hmm.
that scale is large with the different emotions and stuff that people feel. So
Yeah.
I started challenging them even when we walk into well, if I'm teaching class or in the sessions. My first initial thing is I do a check in
Hmm.
because I want to gauge where they are in that
Right.
moment from the last session that we had, or if it was last week, then today. How are you feeling today? Tell me about your morning. Tell me about your afternoon. Tell me about last night. What did you have for breakfast? What triggered? What was your emotions? Because I got to get a baseline to understand where they are. Because sometimes they don't want to engage in session. Okay, that's fine. So what is it that you feel that we need to unpack today?
Right. And if
So
you're not asking those questions, you're not going to get any information from them, and they're not going to open up. And a lot of times asking just that general question, which seems very open-ended, it actually opens a door for a lot more conversation than people realize,
yeah.
you know. And people don't realize that it's a in-depth it's an in-depth question
Yeah.
that leads to more information, and they don't realize how much they're about to open up when you ask that question.
But a lot of times, just thinking back to most times, people who are whether it's a work relationship, your significant other, friends, teammates, peers, if you ask somebody just in random, man, how your day going? Huh? What? Because it's uncommon.
Hmm.
It's uncommon. The social dynamic of communication is gone.
Yeah.
It is gone. And holding people to a space of having conversations, that's tough when you don't
Hmm.
know how to communicate. Part of
Yeah.
this mental health awareness thing with men, we're not the best communicators.
No,
We're
y'all
not.
are.
We're not. And
y'all
I
y'all's brain is wired to logic and reasoning, and emotions aren't usually high on the totem pole for when it comes to communicating. So when we're talking and we're going through all of the details of what our day was like, you guys are listening for the beginning and the end, and you're searching for if there was a problem within there. And if there was a problem, you're looking already trying to figure out the solution to the problem if there was one. Outside of that, you heard nothing else that we said. You heard nothing about what we were feeling, what we were thinking, nothing. And so that's one of the things that I've had to understand when I'm talking. because I am very, very detailed when I'm explaining something or when I'm saying, how I'm feeling about whatever, that most men, they're only listening for the problem so that
Yeah,
they can figure out the solution to what I'm talking about. Nothing
yep,
else. And
yep.
I'm like, okay, but did you hear the stuff I said before I told you my problem?
Mm, no.
No.
So it's just like Haitian 77 Princess, she stated asking what are you thinking will open up something. You ask a
Yeah.
man that question, his whole thing is what do you mean?
Right.
Because if he's never heard anybody ask him a question in that manner, you threw him off because
Yeah.
that's not a typical way of asking a man a question. It's like, what am I thinking? What do you mean? Thinking about what? It's gonna become a whole different part of the ball game because he doesn't have the emotional regulation skills to process. Like, what do you mean? What am I thinking about? What?
Right.
It is so uncommon, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's
And
sad, but
I asked that question of Dion half the time, and he'd be like, "What you mean? I ain't
that,
thinking about nothing." And I mean, okay, but obviously you are thinking about something because you're about to go and do something, and you're about to go and do X, Y, and Z. So there was a thought process for you to go and do that. And he's like, "No, it's not a thought process. It's just what has to be done." And I'm like, "Okay, you know what? Never mind." So. I I don't I understand, but I don't understand. Y'all's brain is logic and reason. Ours is emotion and it's just those types of things. So, what are some healthy ways that men can actually cope with stress and emotional pain that they tend to try to downplay most of the time, because most of the time they're going y'all gonna downplay the emotion
oh, for sure.
and the stress of what you're going through.
For sure. Well, one of the things that I had to learn how to do, and this was again as I shared when we was talking last time,
Mm-hmm.
after mom had her stroke,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was really the transition for me to where I really slowly started to work on me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was what am I expecting? And it's for these are my 5 words that I use across whether I'm in session, whether I'm having conversation with my homeboys, whether I'm just speaking with people in general. But what are your top 5? What are your expectations? What are your boundaries? What are your limits? What are your consequences? What are your outcomes in every aspect of your life? When I get up and I go to work, my expectations for the day is to do my job, make sure that I'm answering all my loans, make sure that I've done what I'm supposed to do, that my kids can eat, that if something happens to me, they are taken care of, them, their mom and kid. I'm good. Outside of that, those are my expectations. My
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, I'm not gonna let you disrespect me. You're not gonna come at me and talk to me crazy. I'm gonna walk away so I can make sure that I'm straight. My limits
Mm-hmm.
are I'm you only got one time before you gonna see
Mm-hmm.
a side of me that you don't really need to see. My consequences is do am I gonna have a job if I respond the way that I feel that I need to? Or
Mm-hmm.
I just need to go ahead and go home because I'm at that point. My outcome is I'm not going to allow you to stress me because I can do enough of that myself.
Mm-hmm.
But identifying whatever your top 5 are in every aspect of your life and
Mm-hmm.
learning how to tell people no. It's
Yeah.
okay to say no.
Without explanation either.
Yeah, without explaining. I ain't gotta explain nothing to no one because at the end of the day, I gotta protect me. I
Right.
gotta protect my emotions. I'm the only person that controls my elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else controls my elevator. I have so much self calmness now, whew, and I'm thankful because in my 20s it wasn't always there. I was a
Yeah.
firecracker, so you say something wrong, I'm gonna smack you. But I've had to
Yeah.
learn my own process of emotional regulation skills to keep myself intact. And so
Yeah. I
I
think
go
we
through my
both
five
had to
every day.
learn that.
Lord knows
But
I did.
we got that honestly because mom was like that too. So that was
Yeah.
in our genetic makeup. Um so we had to learn how to regulate that
Oh
And
yeah.
so setting that and having a standard of what you ask yourself, your five key words of what your, it's basically like I have a self inventory that I do. And I use that, and I don't do it daily, but that's a good idea
Oh yeah, I gotta
of
do it.
what.
I have to do it daily. I might
Yeah.
not write it down daily, but I'm writing every day. That's
Hmm.
I wake up writing. I wake up out of my
Yeah.
sleep writing. I got so much on my mind, but I'm constantly always writing. I have expectations for pretty much every aspect of my life. Even when you
Hmm.
asked me this earlier to get on here, okay, what are my expectations for the conversation?
Hmm.
What are my boundaries for the conversation? Which I know I got to be open and vulnerable in this space, but still, I had to process it.
Yeah.
I had to process it, and I think a
And
lot of
I was
times,
honestly, I was gonna do it by myself, but then I was like, what better person to have is someone that not only, number one, you're a male, number two, someone that does this on a regular basis, but someone that I think the audience can relate to in the sense of knowing that there's someone who's also gone through some of these things and who's also tackle their own vulnerabilities to be able to be open and be in this space, because you get some people who say, yeah, I've done the work and ain't done nothing at all,
yeah,
you
because
know.
when you ask them certain questions, they'll stumble. I mean, like cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the main things that we focus on because it goes it's so much to that cognitive behavioral aspect. But even
Mhm.
taking it a further step from there is people when they make the decision to say, "Hey, I'm going to talk to somebody." I even talk to them when we're going through that assessment phase. I need you to be honest with yourself. I know I'm finna ask you a series of questions, but I need you to be honest with yourself because if you're not honest with yourself, you're just sitting in here telling me and I'm just capturing everything that you're saying. But if it has no weight to it, you're just rambling. That means that you're not gonna make no progress. But you got
Right.
to be open. People are
Mhm.
afraid to be open because they've been burned so many times by people. Even in church, I've had to learn from my pastor years ago. Learning how to deliver myself from people is one of
Mhm.
the best things that I've ever said. Along with learning not to forgive hinders your progress. A lot of
Mhm.
the emotions that men deal with, they haven't forgave some of the people that have wronged them or hurt them across their lives, and they're carrying all of that. Man, unpack that baggage
Yeah.
because you can't be good for yourself or nobody else because you're carrying too much. Then they
Yeah.
carry their baggage from their childhood to every broken relationship that they've had into another relationship, into their kids are affected by it, their family members are affected by it. They don't know how to process. There some of them
Yeah.
are dealing with depression, anxiety, functional depression. It's just so much that they're carrying because they refuse to unpack.
Yeah, and that's just like the scripture says, cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And that's First Peter 5:7. You know, you have to be able to lean in places and spaces where you know if it's too heavy for you to carry, ask somebody to help you. The main person to ask is God because God can carry those heavy burdens in ways that you can't. You know, one of the things that I know for myself when I started to realize that forgiveness was the key to a lot of things that I needed to let go of, especially when I was going through my divorce and all of that. And then when mom came after her stroke and all of that, and just witnessing um, just a lot, it was just like, okay, I can't be angry. I can't hold on to this because this is getting to be too much for me. And I can't hold it. I can't carry it, but I can be open enough to say, okay, listen, I do love you, but I'm gonna have to set some boundaries. And that was one of the things that I did learn in therapy. Because the first time I went to therapy, I'm sitting there talking to the to the counselor and everything. And she was like, you've talked about everybody in here except for yourself. Like you have given everything, but what do you do for you? And I could not answer her. I had nothing. And she was like, you've talked about everything that you've done for everyone else, every burden, every thought, every process, everything for everybody else, but I have yet to hear what you do for you. And I was like, I don't even know how to answer you at
Right.
all. you know and that was the point where I realized that I had to start taking the initiative to put my mental health before everybody else, because I was no good. I The way that I thought I was good for everyone else around me, I really wasn't, because I was not showing up for me in the capacity in which I needed to. And
My,
so when I realized that, after she asked me that question, because she was like, this is your homework for the next section, is to go and write down things about you. Now I
that's
didn't
one of
have
the
much on
hardest
that
things for
paper.
people to do. To
Yeah,
express stuff about themselves. Like
yeah.
even in session, like when we, especially when we're doing that plan, completing that plan, the person centered plan.
Uh-huh.
There's a question in there, like the first question: what do you think people like or admire about you? Huh? I don't know. What do you mean? It's about you. What do you think? Okay, then flip it. What do you like about yourself? I don't know. Asking you, what do you think people like or admire about you? You don't know. Now I'm asking you, what do you like about you and you don't know? Well, okay, what are your strengths? I don't know. What do you what, like? I be so blown away because it's like you have an opportunity to be your biggest fan in this moment, and you can't tell me nothing.
They've never, and that's where the reality comes in, that they've never taken the time to sit with themselves, to
And
even get to know themselves.
and that's the part that is like so intriguing
Hmm.
along this journey because it never gets old. I know I walked away from it at one point in time, but that's when I was dealing with some my own health issues and stuff. In that
Hmm.
moment, I had to separate um, because I had to take care of me. And so
Yeah.
now part of the conclusion of every session is, what is your self care plan? What are you doing for you, especially with the adult clients? What's your self care plan like?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about what you doing for your grandbaby. I don't want to hear about what you trying to do for your kids. I don't want to hear about, no, I want to know about you. What are you doing for you? Well, I ain't
Yeah.
doing nothing. No, you need to start. Whether it's taking 5 or 10 minutes every day, that's just
Yeah.
focus. Well, I got kids. Okay, I got
Yeah.
kids too. They may be older now, but I still have to identify space.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
getting back to that as we speak. And you
and
know me, I've been doing that for so long. My identity was in my
yeah,
kids. And so I'm just now getting to a space to where I am learning to celebrate me and who I am. And it's different. It's a little different, and it's a little uncomfortable. But at the same time, it is necessary. And I'm learning that, you know, there's a little bit more in self-care than just a bubble bath or
yeah.
a cup of coffee, and that kind of thing. So I'm learning, but it is one of those things that it is a learning experience. What is something that you could say to the men that are listening tonight, or just to people in general, even though this is men's mental health awareness month? what is something that you would say to the men listening now, that would encourage them to seek the support without feeling shameful for it?
One thing that I would share with them is you have to do what's in the best interest of you. Not worried about what your friends are gonna say, not worried about what people are gonna say, but we gotta work on healing. Like
Mhm.
one of the biggest things, and and I share when I'm talking with people. When I got that call on February 9th from Keith that mom was
Mhm.
rushed to the hospital, like I was frantic. Like, what am I gonna do? But I
Mhm.
was so excited because now she can't run from me. I
Mhm.
get a chance to heal the little boy in me, and
Yeah.
I longed for that. So, any
Mhm.
opportunity that any male or anybody can get an opportunity to go heal the little child in them, to move beyond any of the traumas that you've had accustomed to, whether it was trauma in your childhood, whether in your early adult years, but you need to heal from that trauma so that you can be the best version of yourself for you before you can be the best version of yourself for anybody else.
That
And
is really true.
you have to get to that space, man, to where you can heal for you. Because you ain't no good for nobody if you ain't healed for you.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that is because I just recently, which I've been doing this work for a good little minute for myself and healing my own personal thing. But just recently I wrote a poem to the little girl of me. And I'll probably share it one of these days, but it's just one of those things that, it is necessary that
Yeah.
you speak to the younger version of yourself, because you often hear, what would you say to the younger version of yourself if you could talk to them today? You hear that question a lot, but then you still also hear, well, I don't know what I would say to myself. Or some people say, well, it gets better. Or, man, it's messed up. I wouldn't even want to get to where I'm at. Or, it's so much hurt that they can't see anything positive,
Yeah.
not understanding that they're still blessed to still be living, and they still have an opportunity to make more of whatever it is that they're going for, because they're not looking at what God is actually providing for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they turn to God in giving him the opportunity to guide them and lead them, that they will see the value in which they were created in his eyes and his image, because God gave us all a purpose and a path. And if they lean to his understanding and not their own, they will understand that nothing that they've gone through has been in vain, you know?
Right, but as I a lot of times, man, with the guys and sometimes talking with some of the guys that they are ashamed to express their willingness or their love for God
Hmm.
because of how it's going to be viewed towards others around them. I could care less. I know I
Yeah.
went through that phase when I was in middle school, for being in the church, man, to tell my boys that I was ushering at the church or that I was singing in the choir. But now, as I've gotten older, I have to give reverence to him.
Yeah.
Like even when I'm having conversation with my boys, I'm like, so how many times have you been drunk and you earling over that toilet and you like, man, God, if you get me out of this, I ain't gonna do this no more. But then no soon as you get past that, here you go right back to the bottle. Like, man, God, if you tell me not to mess with that chick no more, man, I ain't gonna. Then no soon as she call you right back over there. Oh man, I ain't gonna do that no more. But then no soon as your boys call you, turning up with them again. So it's like
Right.
you can't straddle the fence with God. It's like either you got to be
And he
fully
don't
committed,
negotiate neither.
right?
He
Either
don't
you got to be
negotiate.
fully committed or you can't, because he not gonna play this straddle the fence game.
Right.
Because when he gets your attention, there's nothing that you can do
Right.
to change
Because
the direction of what he's called you for. And I think one of the most exciting moments of this journey, man, of understanding mental health is that everybody has a story.
hmm
Everybody has a story. Now is when you come in here, either you're gonna help me either are you gonna allow me to help you unpack, or you gonna keep adding more trauma and issues to your story.
yeah, yeah,
So, but a lot of times, man, it's going back to the original point of what I stated before is vulnerability. People do not want to be vulnerable with their feelings because they're in fear of it coming back up at them
yeah,
or somebody using this against them. And you can't be afraid to be free for yourself.
yeah,
Like it's once you get to a place to where you can learn to be free for yourself, man, it's a beautiful feeling. Cause you're
yeah,
not concerned no more about what somebody says.
yeah. When you love you for you, it don't matter what nobody else gotta say because you know that you complete you,
Yeah.
and that's it. But I want to thank you for coming in last minute. I know it was a last minute
Nah,
um,
no problem.
text this morning, but it's a great conversation because I feel like more men need to understand that they're not alone. And I want to say to the listeners that if you are feeling like you're alone in life, you're not. If you're feeling like you're carrying some heavy burdens, you have people that are around you who are willing to help you carry your burdens. You're not alone. You don't have to carry them alone. Your life is important to us, and we would rather hear your stories than to read your eulogy. So reach out to anybody, just reach out and let us know that you are in need of a conversation, of a shoulder, a ear, whatever it may be, because we would rather have you here than not here. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I won't be back until 2 weeks, so it'll be in July when you'll see me back. But as always, remember to stay out of God's business. The only thing He needs you to do is to be obedient to what He's called you to do. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.
All right.